do today is send you down a little different route on these. Bill mentioned, do they work? Well, I get to answer that question for you. Do they work in a commercial operation where I'm trying to build a carcass? Yes, they work very well. And I will show you how we have done that. I sent my first load of calves out of the feedlot to U.S. National over in Liberal, Kansas, I guess going on 20 years ago, and I was all ready to get Bill's gold mine that he just showed you up here, and instead I got a $3.02 discount. And I said, well, what's an EPD again? And that started me on a path of saying, how do you build this carcass? And I've got 20 years worth of data, 20 years worth of buying bulls, and I'll show you that data today. I'll specifically answer the question. You say, well, how does an EPD work? Well, for what? What do you want an EPD for? Well, what I want an EPD to do is to align it, in my case, U.S. Nationals, a premium beef program. So what is this bull going to do to that particular grid premium system? And then we've talked a lot today about ribeye and marbling. Well, guess what? They're antagonistic. So how do you manage those antagonistic EPDs? And I want my program to be profitable. I'm not in this for hobby. So how do you make money on a grid with an expensive bull? So we'll show you how we've achieved that level of success. If I can figure out how to run this. Okay? Can you flip me?
I sure can.
I'll let you do the work. Okay, advance one. Okay. So we get about $40 to $60 premium for yield and quality on a calf over the years, depending on the CS spread, of course. Yesterday the CS spread was $17.42. You can make a lot on a grid with that kind of thing. I keep immaculate records on my carcasses. So when I sell a calf, mostly to a feed yard that knows me, I don't even send them a movie of calves anymore. I send them about 14 pages of history, including the bull EPDs, including the historic carcass data. And for that feedlot, I send them ADG data. And I send them all of our immunization programs. Not vaccination programs, immunization programs, because there's a difference. I show them trace minerals, we have custom minerals. My ranches are about 38 miles apart, so we've got different grass qualities. So we've got immunization based on minerals for those pastures. And we advance all that information and use that in our program. Here's the goals that I have. I mostly retain ownership in the field, sometimes 100%, sometimes 50%. I raise them through the stalker phase on my own forage in my own feedlot. Usually, if I've got the forage and my cost of gain is about 41 cents, naturally I want to take that calf on up into the 800, 850 pounds before I send them to driving up home in the feedlot. I calf twice a year, so I pay more money for bull at an auction, but I use it twice a year. So I've got a more expensive bull that's a cheaper per calf bull cost. I try to keep my bull cost around $12 per calf. And we'll get into some problems that I've had doing that. Gretchen is going to talk a lot about ribeye and marbling. And she knows about 400% about the knot. Now I want to keep a ribeye about 16 to 70%, or 16 to 70 square inches. I want marbling to be around 440. That achieves the right level of premiums for me. I get about 65% of my premiums from quantity, yield. not surprising for all of us short people in the room. I get the rest of it from Marlin. We'll talk more about that. I want all my calves to be in the upper quartile as far as feedlot average daily gain. And I want a superior organization program. That's basically what we're trying to achieve. I've got to go to the feedlot and sell uniformity. And I'll show you the problems that I'm having there in just a moment. Health, immunity we got. Gain performance we got. Produce gain performance out of sharps. And I want to get that carcass yield and quality information to that feedlot if they're going to buy that calf or if I want to retain, so that we know what that calf's going to produce on the grid. Now, here's the key formula. It took me 14 minutes to create this slide. It took me 20 years to get the data for the formula. Here's how you can align an EPD of a bull. Use a Charbel to the grid. Now, back to Bill's first slide. When Bill showed the EPDs, the slide used the absolute value of the EPD. And below that was the percentile in the AICA database. I prefer to use the percentile of that EPD, so that's what this is. So, I've got about 21 bulls right now. This is the average of the EPDs, and I use 4 EPDs when I buy a bull. Now, yes, I use cavities. I used to be real particular about it. I'm not so particular about it anymore. I don't have a problem with cavities. So I use yearling weight because yearling weight is the closest thing that I can determine what that feedlot gain performance is going to be. My bull's average EPD is in the 14th percentile of the yearling weight today. Now I want to show you the problems we're having in our program. My top bull is in the 4th percentile. Our worst bull is in the 40th percentile. Now keep in mind with 21 bulls, you know, I buy bulls usually every year, but I've got a bull in there that's 6 years old, and I'm continually raising these EPDs. So now it's 40% bull is an older bull, 4% bull is a newer bull. But I'm getting too much variation and not the uniformity that I want in the feedlot. So I want to tighten this curve as much as I can when I buy a bull. Talk a little bit more about that. Meantime, generally it's easy to find Charbels with good yearling weights. We know that. I'm in the 18th percentile group on ribeye. I actually used to be in the 10%. And I'm actually lowering my EPD criteria for ribeye. We all know Sharps has great big old ribeyes. I used to get some 18-inch ribeyes. Too much. I don't want an 18-inch ribeye. My first bull there is in the 1 percentile. Again, my last bull's in the 40 percentile. I'm calling you on the marbling EPD. Of course, this is one Mark mentioned. We've got some work to do over on the marbling side compared to some of our black bulls. But we're doing very well. I'm very happy with the progress that the sharp breeders are making on market. My top bull in marbling is in the 2 percentile. My worst bull is in the 25 percentile. So I'm putting a lot of focus on buying that better marbling bull. And we'll trade off a little bit on the yield. Talk more about that as well. And then I look at that hot carcass APD, because that one shows me what my addressability is going to be. Top bull, 1%. I love carcass weight. lower bulls to 25%. So you can see as I move over time, I'm putting a lot more focus on really improving my MRV and my carcass weight. But I don't want to give up these two very much. I'll give a little bit on ribeye, not much on yearling weight. So that gets us into the issue of how do you manage these antagonistic weights and the problems that we have. I won't go into too much of this, but I've got years and years of data, carcass data. We are very happy with our Charvet carcass data. We've moved that choice. This is an old historical slide. We moved that grading up from choice converted to, I think the last ones were 82%. So we're getting the calf that we want on that grid. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, I've been with U.S. National a long time. And after I consistently sent shark calves, they came down and visited me and said, you know, you're getting pretty serious about this grid. You really ought to send me a black calf. I got a phone call last year from the same guy and said, wow, those shark calves are doing damn good. Next slide. Now, this is a slide representing about 60 feedlots in Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas areas, consortium that I've got. So this is the marbling score in the spring of 2017 for 1,227 calves out of these feedlots. My calves right now are in this group. Some of them are in this group. I'm running about 130 on some of the heifers, or 430 on some of the heifers. But you can see naturally, we've got a lot more marbling in these black calves that are coming into that program. But I started way over here. So we're getting the progress we want on these marbling scores. Enough that 35% of my premium now comes out of the quality offerings. Here's where we really excel with Idaho shark calf. This is the same population, the Central Plains Consortium of feedlots. This is ADG through, I think this slide is all phases, all stages of the feedlot. For sure it is. And of course you can see where my calves are. Way up. So those shark calves really put it on. My feedlots really like it. So how can I perhaps help you do in a month or a year what took me 20 years to learn? You can optimize these antagonistic traits. It's possible. On the other hand, I would sure like to have a better balance on those bull settings. One of the things that was hard for us to do is really learn how that calf gets graded, how that grid price gets determined. I mentioned I'm with U.S. Premium Beef. Now I understand that program. It's a tricky program to understand. So that's fundamental. We move product into the grid. This year, I looked at 27 bull catalogs. And when I say that, I'm talking about every bull. I went into the ASCI database, looked at every EPD on every bull in 27 bull catalogs. So it takes me a lot to find the bull in the narrow spread that I want. And the thing that amazed me this year was how many what I call 0 and 100 bulls that I found. 0 meaning they're in the 1 percentile for ribeye. They're in the 0 percentile for marbling. That bull will work in the grid. The other thing that I've learned is EPDs not only work, but they're pretty darn accurate. And the information information that both Mark and Bill showed us about those correlations, I've proven that to be accurate for these ribeyes and that marbling. That works. Because what we do is we have on occasion had Bill do blood samples and actually correlate a calf to a specific bull. That gets a little expensive, a little time consuming. So what we do now is we ear tag groups of bulls. So I'll take my 5 best bulls and put them in this group of cows, and we'll ear tag those and preserve uniqueness on those ear tags in U.S. premium beef. So when we get those carcasses back, I know at least what 5 bulls, and I try to put homogeneous bulls so I know what those bulls' traits are. The point of it is, there's a very good correlation between those bulls and then our REA and then MRB out of that U.S. Premium National. So I'm very happy that I can correlate that as a commercial breeder. One of the problems we have, we only calf twice a year. That's how I lower my bull cost. And I also have a forage program geared towards feeding stockers twice a year. We use Trinity daily in the fall, and in the summer we use 13 varieties of cover seed, cover crop. So we have a good forage operation. And of course, we keep the bulls, we try to keep the BCS about 6 for those breeding seasons, and we overfed those bulls. And I was losing hips and knees. So my longevity for those bulls wasn't as good as I wanted, which increased my per calf bull cost. Well, we didn't know how to feed bulls. Now, we feed a bull 50% limiters. We use the Cargill product. We used to have the hay rings right next to the feed rings. Done move. Now we've moved the hay rings a mile away. We make those burgers get out there and get our push out. We don't want them to get too heavy. As a result, about 2/3 of my bulls last between 6 and 7 years. I test every time. The test goes down a little bit, say 5%. We'll put that older bull typically in with some younger bulls, match it out. But if we get below that, we get them out. But we're getting good longevity, and that's how I'm reducing my bull cost per calf. Because that's the key. Yes, don't give up pounds. Because you get paid on pounds. It's easy to get that ribeye, it's easy to get that average daily gain. And what I'm working on now is getting that program up. But I don't want to do it in giving up pounds. The other thing we've learned is we don't use growth implants anymore. We have never been able to get the proof evidence that they achieved a benefit profit for us. And quite frankly, I think they reduced the marbling, so there's a built-in cost that I don't think you see. So we've stopped using them, reserve that for the feed yard, and then manage those growth needs. And we started also using ultrasound bulls, or ultrasound data that we viable. I'm getting tougher and tougher as a buyer of bulls. I'll pay for the bull. I don't want any data to be very balanced. I want to see that ultrasound data. And my message to the seed stockers is, I get that, but you're really only interested, if you run a calf through this range, you're only interested in that weight. But the buyer of that calf may be interested in more than just that APD. So it's very difficult for me to find bulls that have the exact balance of those 4 EPDs that I want in my program to produce that calf. Any questions that I've generated that you'd like to ask? Okay, the question is, what's the genetic makeup of my cow herd? And the answer is, I don't have a clue. And Mark just hit on it. 3 years ago, I decided it's a great idea to come to the Salina, Kansas sale and buy some Gardner heifers that renew the EPDs. And I raised my hand up to $2,100, and then went to training $2,300. And I said, man, I ain't smart enough to figure out how to make that work. So that's a problem. I'm very happy with our gold program, but I've got to figure out what to do with that female. Because we're getting more variation in that feedlot than I want. And I think he's just got the answer. One of his what do you do? You have certified people out in the field, couple lab, okay. We've got a certified, is it couple lab analysis or technician, what do you call it?
Certified.
Okay, we've got a certified couple lab technician within a few miles of our ranch. And we're discussing with her now how to do that. You know, the problem is, you gotta get these heifers up, you gotta go tell the buyer that you may buy a heifer and you may not. But you know, he doesn't have horses, so you gotta bring horses. You gotta get the heifers up. So, you know, we haven't worked that out yet. And we haven't worked out if I want to buy the heifer, how much money do I pay for it? But that's what I'm doing next.
Other questions for Max? Right up here.
Do you artificial breed any of your commercial cattle?
Question is, do I AR? I do not. I do not have contiguous land. We run about 13,000 acres. It's 38 miles east and west, 18 miles north and south. I just can't AR. I just don't have the facilities. I'd love to do it. And it's hard. We have big pastures. We don't necessarily have the best facilities, except for two of those 4 pastures, or 2 of those 4 ranches. So I'd have to invest a lot of capital to get my facilities.
Another question for Max. I have one, nice for Max. 20 years working at this, have you tried other breeds, and what's your experience there?
When U.S. Premium Beef came down and said, Max, you're a great guy, but you need to go black. I said, okay, I'll go black. So I bought 4 bulls. I won't tell you who I bought them from, but it's in a nearby state. They were in the 1, 2, 3, and 5 percentile group of the breed. I unloaded them and loving. In 30 days, one of them came back lame. They replaced that bull. The first year, we couldn't find the bull in the pasture. We rode a couple of days to figure it out. We found him, his feet were up in the air. The second year, one of the bulls was foundered, and the bull was in with 19 other Charolais bulls that didn't get foundered. So we trucked him on. The third year, one of the bulls tested out, and I still have one bull. So I sat down and said, okay, what's my per calf bull cost? Rookie's wonderful Angus. And it was $246. And I said, okay, that year I got a $48 premium. And I asked my wife to run that through the calculator, and she didn't like the answer. So I ended that program.